Commissioner Barron,
Here.
Commissioner Walton,
Here.
Chair Woodson, Commissioner St. John,
Here.
Commissioner Chang,
Yeah.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Here.
You have quorum. I'm sorry? He is absent today. Yeah. Speak into the microphone.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right. You lied.
We started early.
Just a minute early. So.
Wow. Some little birdie said that you were not going to be here tonight and that you were going to be absent.
Can we recall the room?
So
Let the record show.
All right. So, all right. Any special announcements or communications from the floor tonight?
not at this time.
All right, next up is my favorite section of the meeting, at least to speak about, is the ex parte communications for quasi judicial matters. If anything from, can't speak, anybody have anything they want? Nope. All right, moving on. We have the consent agenda for tonight. We only have one item on the consent agenda, which is approval of the meetings from a very long time ago, from January 23rd. Anybody have any updates or changes that they want to raise about that? Okay, make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Who was the first? I'm sorry.
I think I am. The way
Okay.
he just phrased it, I will make the motion.
Thank you.
Well, no, it's a good point. So let's go through the vote and then we'll talk about that.
Commissioner Barron, Commissioner Rana, Vice Chair Walton,
Yes.
Chair Woodson,
Yes.
Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So the answer is that I just usually defer and let other people make the initial motions. So I very rarely will do it.
I misunderstood what you had said. I thought you had said you. You were called.
It's been since January 23rd we were here. So I know everybody's trying to relearn the rules a little bit.
That's a long time.
It is a long time. Okay.
It's been a day.
So we're having a fun night tonight. All right, next up, this plays out very well for this conversation that we're going to have because we have a very interesting speaker coming up. So next up is public hearings. At this point, if there's anybody, is there anybody online?
There are two people online, Chair
If
Woodson.
anybody is online or in the meeting room here that would like to speak on pretty much any subject dealing with the city, except for the community block grant program. You are free to come up and speak for 3 minutes.
No one's indicated they're speaking, Chair Woodson.
Such a letdown. All right, so I guess we'll close public comment and move on to our main item for tonight, which is informational item. We have a presentation tonight by Darby Marshall on the community development block grant presentation. Thank you, Darby, for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
So before we begin, I just wanted to provide the context. So the city has not been part of this program for a number of years. Darby reached out to the city to ask if we wanted to be part of a consortium to potentially get access to this funds. So he gave an initial presentation to the council. And then after that, the city manager gave direction to me to say we should do some outreach. So there's potentially anywhere from $452 to $600,000 that the city could get access to in the next 3 years. The commission has no formal role in the city's budget, but the commission itself is a good cross section of the community. And you guys have been involved in a lot of housing related issues lately. So I thought it would be good to, the first part of the day was a little bit of an open house and then to get input from the commission. So the expectation tonight is you guys will hear from Darby how the mechanics of the program run. We do have a few people online. We do have a couple people in the audience. And then you do have a letter from MST. And then before we leave, I'm going to give each of you guys 5 dots and you can vote where you want us to potentially spend the money. And like I said, you don't have any formal role, but we just wanted to do some outreach and then, so there's that. We also have a survey online. We've been asking people at the permit center. It's in your packet. We created a Survey Monkey and we have a QR code that's also in your packet to get access to the survey. So I'm going to compile what the commission says, what we hear from the community, people online, package it all up. So when I go to the council, they'll make the final decision about this is what the community is asking for. So that's just the context for tonight. So I'll pass it off to Darby. So.
Darby Marshall. I'm Monterey County Housing Program Manager. Working the county's Housing and Community Development Department. I have been involved with CDBG for way longer than I would like. So I can make this as long-winded as you want or short-winded. So I would prefer to have more of a conversation rather than just stand up here and present slides. So questions, just feel free to wave your hand and let me know. You want to bring up your
yes.
deck? So, and I will go through these and I will probably elaborate on them and provide examples of what we've used the funds for or what they've been used for in the local area so that we have an idea. Okay, so next slide. Real quick, I'm going to tell you about the urban county, the consolidated plan, the annual plan, and then we'll wrap it up with some questions and answers and move forward from there. Next. Okay, we can go to the next one. So real quick, the CDBG program is a federal program through the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. And it has 2 components. One is the entitlement component, and it receives about 70% of the federal funds that Congress allocates for CDBG funding. Then there is a states program that gets the balance of it, about 30%. In order to be an entitlement community, you have to meet certain thresholds. In the case of an urban county, it's that you have 100,000 people and 51% of them are what are considered low moderate income persons. And what that means in this county is a family of 4 has a median income of $103,500. So that's low mod. Okay. Sounds like a lot to me for a family of 4, but we at the county don't meet the thresholds on our own. So every 3 years we go out and we ask all the cities in the county, do you want to join a consortium with us to get these funds? They will come forward. And in this case, we have 4 participants this year. We have the city of Marina, Greenfield, Gonzales, and Sand City. And the process started a couple of years ago when I went to HUD and said, just pretend that every city in the county is eligible for CDBG funding. How much would they get as an entitlement grant? They gave me that number. And then I sat down and said, here's what we could potentially bring in if all the cities came to the party. And then we can use a certain amount for general admin. We can take up to 20% of the annual grant that the county receives to run the program. Another 15% of it to provide what are called public services. And I'll explain these a little more later, which left 65% of the funds for hard projects, infrastructure, public, affordable housing, community facilities, public facilities, things like that. So then I had to parse that out. Okay. So real quick, last year, the city and the county entered into a joint powers agreement that specified everybody's roles, responsibilities, and how we anticipated allocating that grant. This year, we are preparing what's called a consolidated plan. Every 5 years, the urban county has to prepare a consolidated plan that identifies community development needs that could be addressed with CDBG funding. Then it attempts to prioritize those, not specific projects, but broad categories, okay? And then every year, we also prepare an annual action plan. As part of that, in December, we go out to the community and we ask, who has ideas for projects? We get proposals and we rate and rank them. Excuse me for a second. And Guido helped us take a look at those and come up with funding recommendations that then go to a subcommittee of the Board of Supervisors who look at them and they may tweak them, move stuff around, and then make a formal recommendation to the full Board of Supervisors. And in May, we will adopt an annual plan for fiscal 25-26. And that annual plan will have specific projects that we're going to fund with CDBG dollars. In about September of 2026, we will prepare what's called the Consolidated Annual Progress and Evaluation Report, the CAPR, and that will summarize how we did in 25-26. So that's kind of the life cycle. This is 5 years, 3 years, and then every 18 months, and we're always kind of keep rolling. Everybody good so far? Okay. Next slide, please. So some basics. CDBG, we have to meet what's called a national objective. And that is, there's 3 of them. We have to meet, provide a service or benefit to low, moderate income households or persons, preventing or eliminating slums and blight, and meeting an urgent need. Urgent need is typically something that came up suddenly for which the local jurisdiction does not have adequate resources to respond. So like the March 2023 floods, there is now a special CDBG allocation that the state has received to help places like Monterey County and the cities produce projects that respond to that urgent need. Okay, so typically in an annual program, we will not fund those. There's some other tricky things with some of this that I'll get into if you really want to. There are 3 ways that we can measure the low mod benefit. You can do it as area benefit, and what that means is that we have identified a trade area or a census tract that is 51% low mod population. And then you can just assume that whatever you do there is going to benefit a low mod population. So if we do sidewalks in Pajaro is like 70% low mod. We don't have to do anything else. We're good. Okay. If we were going to do a facade improvement program out here on reservation, we'd have to come up with a trade area that shows that 51% of the people visiting those businesses are low mod. So it gets a little trickier when you try to move outside established census tract boundaries. There's limited clientele, which is we can assume if you meet the census definition of severely disabled, you're a migrant farm worker, you're over 62. There's a handful of these categories where we can just say, okay, let me take a copy of your driver's license, circle the date that you were born, you're 62, and we're good. Pretty easy. We can do housing, but then we have to look at everybody's income in the household. We can't just say, you know, you're eligible. We actually have to income certify you. We have to look at tax returns. We have to look at bank statements. It can get kind of invasive. So it's not something that we want to go into lightly because it's a fairly staff intensive thing and it can be invasive for the people who we're trying to help. Okay. And then the last one is jobs, and jobs is, again, we have to verify the income of the job holder to make sure that they're low mod. So questions so far? I haven't,
We can follow one of those four. We don't have to meet all.
just one. Yeah. Okay. So next slide, please. Next one, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so limited clientele, you can see the list. Pretty self-explanatory. Next one. So this is the available funding. So over the 3 years, we expect to get about $4.2 million into the county. Marina is going to get approximately 620,000. I say approximately because it's all subject to whatever Congress does with appropriations. So right now, we're on a continuing resolution. We have the money, so we know what we have for this year. Who knows what's going to happen in September as we get to the next federal budget. But right now, we're planning that the city is going to get about $620,000. Over the 3 years, we figure we're going to have about 641,000 for public services. Public services are always wildly oversubscribed because there is so much demand and there are so many eligible organizations and there's a lot of competition for all of the different programs that we're always wildly oversubscribed. And then you can see how the other cities are going to fall out. Questions on how I got to the 619,620? We good? Next.
Questions?
Yeah.
Based on what, how you allocate the fund that Marina got 600,000?
Okay. So I started with that $4.2 million. I took 15% out for public services. I took and this is where it gets tricky. I took 20% of what I thought the county was going to get out for general admin. Then I hit all the other cities for 10% for general admin. So I didn't take the full 20 that we could. And then I took 2.5% from each of the cities to give Sand City enough so that they got up to $4,000. I wanted to have enough for them to have something that could leverage other dollars. And they were only supposed to get like $4,000 a year. So they're going to have like 12,000. So I needed I kind of balanced it that way. And so that's how I got into that 619,000. Is that
What's the percentage of the low my household in Marina City? Do you know?
I am trying to find that number. So HUD does their own calculations and they haven't released it yet. So I'm still waiting for them. And I don't think that Marina is 51% low mod. I don't think, but I have to wait until I see the HUD figures.
Small or less?
It's less. So yeah,
Thank you.
and the other thing that's really challenging in this area is we think we're relatively bad off, but if you were competing at the state's program and you're competing against the San Joaquin Valley or the Imperial Valley, it's really hard because we're fairly well off. We have a lot of people that really need the help, but there is so much more need in other areas as a percentage of population that it makes it challenging for us to compete at the state level. Is that? Yeah.
What is is it tilted because of, say, Monterey Peninsula, the income levels of the peninsula versus Salinas?
So sometimes, because we look at census tracts, it's not quite that simple. So if you're familiar with the Salinas Valley and Chular, okay, does everybody know where Chular is? On Highway 1, about 10 miles south of Salinas. That's in the same census tract as Chular Canyon. And if you know Chular Canyon, Glenn's got an idea of where this is going. You have a huge variance in income. And so that census tract, and you see the poverty in Chular, but the census tract is not low mod because it includes Chular Canyon. And we run into that problem all over the Salinas Valley, where the cities are, yeah, they're low mod, definitely. Get outside the city limit and it's not. It's a huge challenge in this county. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Next. All right. So we can look at that and I can go through these. These might be a little, because some of you I did see come up and look. So improved drinking water under the state's program. About 20 years ago, the county got $6.5 million through the state program to help correct water quality issues out at Cooperative San Gerardo, southeast of Salinas. They had a huge nitrate problem. Low mod community that didn't have the financial capacity to do the new wells and water lines that they needed. So we could do that. We're doing something similar down in San Lucas. Small business development. I do not encourage this for CDBG, but we can consider it if you want. The county had a small business loan program that we used CDBG funding to help capitalize. I had the county buy out the CDBG portion about 10 years ago because it was a pain. But you can do micro enterprise and small business lending to the local community. The county does still have a small business loan program that's businesses in Marina have benefited from, and it's available through Cal Coastal. And they have a bunch of other programs so they can help put together a whole funding package if you have a business in mind in this area that might need some help. They also do SBA lending. Affordable housing. Affordable housing is a tricky one because CDBG, you cannot build new housing. But what we can do is rehab housing. And so we have probably done close to 75 or 80 housing rehab loans over the past 40 years. And so we will go in and take a house that is marginally habitable and bring it up to code. Okay. And we can do that at, either a 0% interest, or I think most of our loans have been 3%, so they really don't keep up with inflation. I would like to get that program going again. I'm not sure I want to use CDBG because I don't have a lot of it, and the cities don't have a lot, but there are ways that I think we could strategize if that's something that the community needs that we can attract funding for. Yeah.
Instead of, I went from tiny homes, tiny family homes to parking solutions. So we have a whole set of city retention bases that are not being housing. So they require really in backfill to, well, pretty substantial backfill. But we have all these small little areas where little 2 or 3 bedroom tiny homes, 2 or 3 on a lot, could be, if we had the land prepped. So I guess, from a grant perspective, if we took those infill lots and we did it for site prep, that we could then market to developers to say, okay, here we've got an area that's prepped, it's ready to go, and you could put 2 to 3 tiny 2-bedroom homes there to deal with. If we do have we have a large homeless population. What we really have is we have a homeless family situation, and being able to get them into these homes. Part of the issue is developers don't want to put money into big home. They want to do that for small homes that we've seen in the neighborhood. But coming up with that, maybe we use that as kind of a incentivization tool for developers to come in and add that to address one of our kind of larger problems?
I have a more holistic answer. Okay, so the CDBG could be used for the site prep. Okay, but that's only the first problem, especially if you want to create affordable housing, right? Yeah, we can do some of that site prep and take that burden off the developer. But if you want to make the housing affordable, they still got to be able to either turn a profit or make it attractive. And so one of the more successful strategies that we've had in this county with owner occupied affordable housing is called the self-help model. And in self-help, what happens is you typically have a household that is 80% of AMI. And somebody like Chispa will go out and do the fundraising that will buy all the lumber, buy all the materials. They'll have a general contractor on staff. The household will have to commit to having somebody on site working on the house alongside professionals 40 hours a week until the house is built. That's their sweat equity. And then the county has come in with down payment assistance loans to come in to help cover hard closing costs. So and in that way, we can use the CDBG funds to get the site prepped and then get an affordable unit out there that people have taken an active part in constructing. Yeah. Yeah. And
It's like, how do we incentivize the
Mhm.
process to kind of kickstart? And we
Mhm.
have all these small infill spots that the city owns
Mhm.
that literally we give it to, we just give it to a developers like that saves them having to procure the land, that becomes part of their profit margin. Go to
Yeah.
the model.
and if you're looking at 3 to 12 units, that's something that is very doable for these housing nonprofits that are experienced with that. And I have some folks that I could, if that was a model that the city wanted to pursue, and it's something that I would like the county to pursue personally. It could result in housing. Yeah, definitely. So we could use CDBG funding for that. The catch is we got to put that whole funding stack together because CDBG wants to see those units occupied within about 5 years of investment. So that's the
That back. That would, we didn't have anything in our rate numbers. We didn't those areas, correct? We did.
We did not.
That would actually kind of be a bonus. Help us.
That's correct. That's correct.
it would, if you have the same problem the county does, it would certainly take the pressure off the site's inventory properties to get developed the way we want them to be.
We're already proactive in the city.
Yeah.
When it comes to related to other areas, but this would be a nice way to, this could be a very good win.
Yes. So I already mentioned we could do the housing rehab programs. We've done that. We've also done down payment assistance programs where we use CDBG funds as a silent second. We can typically we'll do up to 10 or 20% to help with the down payment. It's a silent second that earns 3% interest. It's typically deferred for 30 years. And what that does is it helps bring cash to the table. And because the loan isn't paid every month, it helps with the monthly debt to income ratio so that the household can get into a unit that's maybe a little more expensive, like in this area. So we've done that. It's been successful in the past. It's, again, one of these programs that because we're always chasing grants for it, we don't always get the grants. It kind of ebbs and flows. So if we came up with a stable funding structure, it would probably be a lot more successful. And it would also be something that we could use to help with the tiny home programs. We don't do a whole lot with just lead-based paint on its own. Typically look at the county environmental health because they have lots of grants for that. but we can. Energy conservation, for about 3.5 years, Grid Alternatives was in the community, and they would income qualify households and do rooftop solar. And there were 54 households in the county that we served through that program. Helped. It helps keep that housing cost affordable because they're not having to pay like if you had borrowed to put your solar in your house on your own. We can buy real property. Again, you got to know what you're going to use it for, and you got to have a plan to do so within 5 years. Demolition, I haven't done demolition with CDBG, but we have done brownfields. We did it for the San Lucas Library. It was an old gas station, blacksmith shop. We went in, had all kinds of nasty hydrocarbons in the soil, cleaned it up, and with matching an EPA grant, and then county library built a brand new library down there. So it was a beautiful facility. Infrastructure, you use CDBG to put in sewer and water lines. We've used CDBG for sidewalks, for streets, park lights. Some of the stuff that we usually use CDBG for is ADA improvements at public facilities. Because again, you can assume that because it's removing an architectural barrier, that it's income qualified. So that's an easy win for CDBG. Any questions so far? Good. Next slide, please. So what we can't fund buildings for general local government. We can't build a new city hall. We can't build a police station. We can't do fire stations, and we can buy fire trucks. I bought 2 fire trucks with CDBG funds, and I'm probably going to be buying a 3rd. So if that's something that is needed, we can consider it. Like I said, we can't do new housing. There are ways around that. Greenfield Commons, brand new housing project in Greenfield, the city required them to do some off-site improvements. So we paid for those. Couldn't pay for the new housing, but without the off-sites, I couldn't build it.
The fire one might be of interest to the council. Can you elaborate on, does it have to serve a low income census tract, or what's the tie-in to the CDBG?
So we would have to look at the primary service area and make sure that it was income qualified. And until I get the new HUD numbers,
Okay.
I can't really do that, but
Okay. It's a good question. I just wanted to get clarified. So
but moving to the one that's on this end of town. It really covers
microphone. Speak into the microphone.
So-
I have text message from 2 community members.
I'm sorry.
So,
I think the issue of, so there, if we were moving, because I'm just trying to, because it's quite a bigger kind of conversation I have on some other things. If we had to move the fire station, but the fire station is being moved to an area that was more centralized, but in the time right now, just because it doesn't cover, it covers a lot of open agricultural land or undeveloped open space land. But it does cover, the preponderance of the area covers is low income. However, when we move it, the low income will still be covered, but all of a sudden we're going to cover a large
Right.
percentage of the newer higher
Development.
income.
yeah.
At that point, it would probably take us out of that 51%.
so what you might be able to do, take the fire truck from the current station, move it to the new station, put the new fire truck in the old station. That still covers the Lomond population.
Got it.
All right.
I could find ways to work around.
Yeah.
So, and then the last thing that we really can't do is, we can't fund projects that are not going to benefit primarily low mod populations. So it would be really hard for me to justify to the feds building a new tennis court in Carmel, in the city of Carmel, for Carmel residents only. That would be a hard sell. Okay. I could build tennis courts for low mod people in Castroville, but when you look at the demographics of Carmel, it gets to be a little harder sell. That's an extreme example, but I hope it gets the idea across. Next. Yeah.
The CDBG funds is for low-lying populations, right? So you listed down, there's so many ways of using it.
Mhm.
How do you prioritize it? And which one? You know, everybody would be asking for a fund.
Right.
Well,
So, and this is one that I hate, you know, I hate being there and trying to say, should we fund Meals on Wheels more than we fund Girls Inc.? You know, Girls Inc. does youth development for teenage girls and helps them with avoid teen pregnancy and become more assertive and leaders. We all know what Meals on Wheels does, right? You know, so you're making an investment in the future, or you're providing food security for folks who maybe are past their prime. I hate having to say, make a judgment there, you know? So what we try to do, or at least what I try to do, and I encourage the folks that are rating with me to do, is let's try to make sure that we fund everybody at an amount that is impactful. And sometimes we can't fund everybody. And that means that, you know, sometimes we leave projects unfunded. And we haven't come up with a good way to make that judgment. So it's a hard one.
So I have a question. So this, after the admin and everything, it's $452,000 for Marina.
Mhm.
But if we didn't give you a good project, that goes away.
Okay, so HUD's expectation is that we will invest some amount of CDBG funding within for a project within the city of Marina. Okay. So it's incumbent upon me and Guido to work together to find a project. I don't want money to go away. Okay.
But you can't fund everything. for
I can't
everybody.
fund everything, no.
Right.
But I would not have the money if Marina didn't come to the table and join the consortium. So I want to there's an incentive for us to find a project.
I have a list of some other things besides this list you have here. I'm just curious, kind of yes or no with these types of things. Could they fit? I don't really see, so we could do a job training for youth, or we could do job training type programs with these.
We can. I'm not really familiar with how you have to go. Again, you would have to do the income certification of all the youth going through it. And I'm not I've never done one, so I don't have the ins and outs of how we set those up, but I can find out.
Yeah, and I think just kind of looking at the economy and where it's going, especially let's say middle, I'm going to bracket it, but just for the example here of say middle, those who may face age discrimination in employment that are unemployed and are having a hard time finding new jobs. And so I think maybe as the kind of segue into the context would be not necessarily people who are employed, but looking for job training for people who are unemployed or are in a disadvantaged population group from an employment perspective.
Yeah, we could do that now. With the caveat, that is a public service, and so it's part of that 50% that's already oversubscribed. So yes, we can, but it doesn't come out of the city's pot. It comes out of the piece that I set aside for public services.
Well, that's actually good to know of what kind of counts as public service. So, which then would go to my next one, which is more, again, on the age side, but I guess we could read it, is a senior disability support programs for the community.
Yes,
Are those, would those be, they could go either way?
no, those would be public services. So they would probably be public services. So area agency on aging, um, Alliance on Aging, Meals on Wheels. Those are all public services. If we were to do, ADA improvements at a, public, facility, say your community center needed ADA improvements, so senior lunches. The ADA improvements are a community facility. And that would be part of the city's allocation of funding.
Or
Yeah.
if we're like, I'm using another example, if we're looking on something like Rain Dollar, where we have a large population of elderly who are who are walking one section, and we've got three sections that are left post city boundaries and building that are not paved. And if we wanted to put sidewalks in those three sections to improve safety, but to improve walkability for the people who are out exercising.
Yeah, that would be, removal of architectural barriers as a community facility or infrastructure.
I talked about and then the other one was, I guess it's going to be public service too, then would be some types of things that would be mobile health services type of focus would fall underneath, generally would probably fall underneath public service also.
Yeah, that would
Okay.
health services.
Okay.
Now we have done, healthcare facilities in Marina with, CDBG money with Interim Inc. Up by, Imgen Road and their Shelter Cove, I forget what the whole complex is called, but we've helped fund construction of, health facilities. And that's just because of the way that the, HHS categorizes the type of housing that they provide.
I did not know that you used funding to support that.
That was, yeah, that was old county CDBG money. That was
Oh,
like,
interesting. We were just talking about them recently here. The last one I have example would be stormwater green kind of infrastructure improvement. In this case, the one I'm thinking about is we've got the programs we're looking at it at the lake, but the area that was kind of left out of our plan was the very overgrown retention green space that is at the end on Beach Road at the end of Reservation. Right next to where Walmart and definitely right across the street from the 7-Eleven and the Holiday Inn Express.
Okay.
That whole area.
so that would fall under Parks and Rec, and that would be a community facility. And so, yes, it could be funded. We would have to figure out, and again, unless you were doing something very specific to get, the disabled in, we'd have to look at, who's primarily using that park and what their income levels are.
Okay.
I have a question about, when you said the income levels.
Mhm.
So could you take let's just call it a community
Mhm.
that, isn't really safe because of sidewalks and lighting and poor pavement and all those kinds of things. But it's definitely in an area where it's surrounded by low and mod income. Could you do beautification and improvements on that roadway with this money?
Yes, we would, yes, we could. So it would either be, I think in terms of the specific categories. So that they do, the street lighting, they do curb gutter sidewalk, you can do streets. So, and we've used CDBG for all of those things throughout the community, the county.
So the area I was thinking of was Lower Carmel, where all those apartments are. And that particular area, I mean, we spent money doing eastern Carmel, but we did nothing down there. And it's really not, it's like blight almost.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we can do all that.
Chair, we do have some community members who want to speak on the item. So.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Comments and open up to the floor.
Okay, Guido, does the city own any old Fort Ord housing duplexes or whatever that are not habitable now because of that needs rehabilitation?
We own a couple duplexes within Cypress Knolls, but I believe we're working with somebody already to rehab those. We own the whole Cypress Knolls site, but those are pretty, dilapidated at this point. So those are the ones that I'm aware of. So.
Thank you.
And just to put your mind at ease, we have used CDBG funding on some of those old duplexes that the VTC owns on Hayes Circle.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's right.
we've
Yeah.
done those. And those are actually a very interesting case study because they had asbestos and lead-based paint, so they were on the expensive side to deal with. But because of who VTC is and its service area, we were able to use county money, the city of Monterey, and the city of Seaside all put money into projects at those units here in Marina because of who their service area is and the fact that they're homeless veterans. It worked. And so otherwise I can't take CDBG money and spend it in Seaside or Monterey or Salinas because they get CDBG straight from the feds. So it was an interesting way for us to solve a problem, a regional problem that we solved here.
Okay. Come back. All right.
Yeah. So if there's members of the public here in the audience who'd like to speak, please come up. So. Yeah. And also online. We do have a couple of people online as well. So.
Hello. I probably haven't met most of you before, but Guido is aware of Revision West. My name is Gabriel Sanders. I work for Revision West. We are a workforce housing developer based in the city of Monterey, but we actually have a project before the city of Marina for a 15-unit, mostly affordable housing project by design right here on Hillcrest, 219 and 221 Hillcrest Avenue. I also am the director of the Monterey Opportunity Housing Trust, which is a community land trust based in Monterey. You were talking about the utility of publicly owned land earlier. And one of the great utilities of publicly owned land is that it can be transferred to a community land trust via the Exempt Surplus Lands Act without having to go through the full surplus lands process. You're basically taking the cost of land out of the equation, as mentioned by the chair, for a developer. My CLT is brand new. We started last year. We are officially tax exempt as of November of last year. We're working with Revision West to find projects, to find land, and find opportunities to use the transfer of that land for free from a city or any other public agency to help create the most affordable projects possible. Marina would be a great place to start. We're also looking and in negotiations for land in other parts of Monterey County, including unincorporated Monterey County, the city of Monterey, and potentially the city of Seaside. Marina seems like it's moving faster and more efficiently than most of the other jurisdictions here, as Guido is probably well aware. Having a good housing element is a first step in that direction. The specific plan has been really helpful as well in terms of getting our project here on Hillcrest moved along and minimizing cost for us and therefore maximizing affordability. We're able to build at Revision West for generally under $500 a square foot, which is mostly unheard of in the development community. Putting my CLT hat back on, if we were to partner with Revision West, building at that efficiency with publicly owned land transferred to us for $0, CLT owns the land. A developer can own the structures and rent on our property, property tax exempt. So you're further reducing costs for the owner of the buildings. therefore passing that along to residents. I can speak for Revision West as a developer that does not seek to maximize profitability. If they did, they could make a lot more money, but they really just want to work with a model that keeps workforce housing in mind. So all the units in our project on Hillcrest can be rented for less than 120% of AMI for the county at least. County AMI being the measure. I don't think the city of Marina has an updated number for 2024 yet, specific to the city. But affordability by design is their goal. They will deed restrict as needed to meet inclusionary requirements and potentially to get in development incentives and concessions, including for density bonuses and other further cost reducing measures that are passed along to the residents of our projects. So I just wanted to plant in your head the idea of the synergy between a community land trust and developers that are building with workforce and affordable housing in mind, such as Revision West, or a nonprofit such as CHISPA, or even Habitat for Humanity, which is working with the Marina Station project to develop 9 owner-occupied affordable housing units. CLTs work very well for owner-occupied affordable housing, but they also work very well for rental. But it starts with usually a jurisdiction willingly transferring land at no cost to the CLT so that we can then fundraise much of the same way that a CHISPA would, usually independent of LIHTC, which is a very onerous process and is a funding source that a new CLT would not be eligible for, nor would we be eligible for Cal Home. We're basically going to work through local private channels to fundraise. One final advantage, even if we don't fundraise to finance the entire cost of construction, a developer can take on the same financing process they would ordinarily, and their bottom line would be a lot easier to meet because they don't have the cost of land factored in or the property taxes factored in due to our nonprofits exemption from property tax. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Again, my name is Gabriel Sanders. Revision West is the company I work for. I also am the executive director of the Opportunity Housing Trust. So thank you for considering all of this. CDBG funds can also help with pre-development funds, pre-development costs. There are all sorts of multipliers here that you can consider.
I have a question, but anybody else on the? So Commissioner Chang.
And what is your website there that we can get into and get more information?
So Revision West has a website, revisionwest.com, pretty easy to find.
Revision West.
Yeah. The housing trust is opportunityht.org.
Say it again.
Opportunityht.org.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
No.
Yeah, sure.
The project that you were described earlier, I think it's 3 buildings with 5 houses,
Correct.
5 units each on
Correct.
Hillcroft, 219
And 221.
and 221.
Yeah.
I know about that project.
Yeah.
You got looking for a tree removal
Yeah.
permit. I'm on
Yeah. Just earlier this
Yeah,
week.
yeah, that was on Tuesday. That meeting was on Tuesday.
Correct.
That was on Tuesday.
Yeah. So 3 of those units will be deed restricted affordable.
For the low income or
Yes. Well, I don't know that we've settled on the final income level that those deed restrictions will be for, but all the units will rent for under 120% of AMI that are deed restricted.
okay.
So it's up to final
Was
negotiation.
that project, was that land donated to you?
That was purchased. And that the housing trust is not involved in that.
Okay,
That was purchased by the developer.
but if the city had some of these drainage, what was it?
All retention ponds.
Retention pond, those are like a single family lot, but they would qualify, I'm pretty sure, for multifamily.
I have a question.
It depends on zoning, but
Yeah, so I've got a question. Park that for a minute and we'll come back to it in like 30 seconds.
Sure.
Commissioner Walton.
Yeah. Before your question.
Yes.
Mine is pretty quick. It's about the property exempt.
Yes, no.
Does that stay with the home? So your renters could have property exempt, or I'm sorry, property.
Property tax exemption.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, the short answer is yes. And the idea in a way similar to Habitat for Humanity or usually any jurisdictional owned affordable homes, the CLT retains ownership of the dirt. And the homeowner owns the structure and improvements. They can live in it the same way they would anywhere else. There would just be a caveat that if they sell the home, first, they're buying the home if they're if it's an owner occupied unit, whether it's a new one or one that we have acquired and maybe rehabbed. The homeowner that we bring in will be an income qualified homeowner. So will every homeowner after that. Similar to Habitat, I'm also on the board for Habitat for Humanity Monterey Bay. So if you have any questions related to that, we can get into that as well. But every homeowner has to qualify. They can sell the home back to the CLT the same way they would to Habitat, who has a first right of refusal. And often cities do as well, or the county. They can also sell directly. We can arrange that through a broker. CLTs, once they have the funds to do so, often will have one either on retainer or on staff. We ensure that it is sold to an income qualified homeowner. That being said, the homeowner can still earn equity. Whatever they pay into their home, they can get back out. And it can also appreciate with the market. Most CLTs will either put a flat percentage increase annually, 1.5 to 2%, or they'll just say, here's what your home would be worth on the open market versus what it was worth when you bought it. You can sell it based on its market value proportional to what you bought it for. Does that make sense? Okay.
Absolutely.
And the property tax exemption is carried throughout because the CLT retains ownership of the land.
So my question is gonna is combination to you, but also to Guido. It's gonna add on to my previous one on the land for the retention infill, which is since we have ministerial approved, since we have pre-approved studio 1 and 2 bedroom ADUs that are available, would we be able to update, if the city council made a decision, would we be able to take those plans, and as long as a developer such as you were approved of those designs, would that be able to streamline the process for development?
Yeah, I mean, those plans have already been plan checked, but they're
Right.
mostly for ADUs. So, I mean, we'd have
Right, but they're
to,
an 80, but it's a 2 bedroom ADU that's 900 square feet, which is for a homeless family that's starting out where they need, let's say they have 1 or 2 kids, that gives them a roof, it gives them a place to live. It provides new construction that is built well, that could have a 30 to 40 year lifespan on it, design wise, which is typical for this area. And it's already pre-approved, which then saves from a scalability perspective, allows us to kind of not cookie cutter, I mean, in a way, kind of cookie cutter development to say, okay, we have X number of properties across our city that we have these pre-approved plans. It's just, how do we best leverage things that we already have on the books there? Because developing a design, developing all that is going to cost a significant amount of money. And if we already have something that has gone through the entire engineering design process, I mean, it's up to the developer, obviously, to approve using.
yeah, I
those
mean,
designs.
we would have to work through those issues. So,
But
yeah.
there's nothing that would restrict us from doing something like that
Yeah.
if the developer wanted to choose something along those lines.
To that end, Chair, Shibuya Housing Systems is the driving engine behind Revision West. They are basically, it's a computerized, digitized set of plans that is replicable over and over again. That's part of why the costs are so low. I won't call it cookie cutter because there is a decent amount of at least external customization available. It's structurally insulated, panel driven design. So the project over on Hillcrest here is a 5-plex, 2 3-bed, 2-bath apartments on top, family sized units for a total of 6 3-bed, 2-bath units with 1-bedroom apartments on the ground floor. We're working with the county right now, actually, to get some pre-approved designs for 2-bed, 2-bath duplexes. So 2 units stacked on top of each other. In addition to a standalone 3x2 cottage, there's actually a unit in the city of Monterey on Cass Street that we use as a touring model. It was built last year, built for less than, gosh, I think we came in under 550,000 on that, 1,150 square feet. So it's an easily replicable design, and we could absolutely, should the city decide to work with the city to get some pre-approved designs. ADUs are absolutely on our agenda right now to get pre-approved as well, if that's something that homeowners are looking to do here. And if you're thinking about housing folks who are homeless or at risk of being homeless, there's really no better way to multiply your impact than by using something that's low cost and replicable. The housing trust model only adds to the benefit there. So, in my humble opinion.
Any other questions for him?
What took you so long to get here?
Well, I was working, I worked for the state of California on the Surplus Land Act for a while. I worked for a couple other nonprofits locally, most recently the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. Last year, I started working with Revision West as a consultant. Diane Coward, who is the CEO of the company, was the board chair for one of the largest CLTs in the country called Proud Ground, based in Portland, Oregon. And she brought the idea here last year. And when I was working with her, she said, you know, I think you should be the one to start it. Here we are.
Got it. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. And thank you for being so forward thinking. I'm not blowing smoke. It's not often we see cities with the resources, the land resources, not to mention the wherewithal. So keep up the good work.
Thanks. Okay, so I think that was local. So we've got questions from online.
Currently, we don't have anybody raising their hand, but I did want to make sure, we have Alex from Interim Inc. Alex, you're online, did you want to speak? And Bryce is from Rincon, he's here just to listen in, he's helping us with some housing element issues. Alex, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, you have 3 minutes.
Oh, great.
Actually, we're a little more informal, if you want more time, that's fine.
No, I was just going to say, we're currently working on redeveloping one of our properties that we have in the city of Marina. We've been to the city council before, they've approved the plan. And we're looking forward to building our Marina Kai project, which is a 3-story apartment complex that's going to serve adults who have a mental illness and also are at risk of homelessness or homeless. And I do want to connect with Darby and Guido later to see if this is a good fit as far as the demolition. If you know, if the city would be interested in having us apply for this type of funding.
Great. My information's on the city website, and definitely put your comments in writing. We're here just to listen to people. The council makes the final decision, but yeah, I have all my information on the city website.
Great, thank you.
That it?
That's it, Chair Woodson.
Go ahead and close public comment. I think coming back, Commissioner Chang, you had a comment you wanted to make before that I kind of put off for a minute.
It's okay. Thank you.
Okay. I feel bad. Baron, anything?
Yes, thank you. I see we are talking about this grant, which to me doesn't look very big, the amount of money. And we are discussing all these things as if we are trying to decide what to do with a huge amount of money. I'm trying to understand when we are talking, first of all, we need to talk a little bit about priorities, because if what is most important for us is finding solution for homeless or individuals or low-income families, I'd like to know which is more important so I can make some kind of a decision, because I feel like I'm spread out on too many issues. So before I finish, just let me. So I wonder how many homeless individuals or families can be helped with this grant by building those units according to whichever program that is available versus how many people can be benefited from this grant if we decide that actually we want a lot more people to benefit from this grant. For example, if we build the sidewalks and clean up the gutters in some parts of town, like you say in Carmel, so a lot more people will be able to benefit from this. So I kind of feel a bit lost that what is our priorities and how many people can benefit from whichever program that we decide that we like.
Yeah, so so the first part, so it is a small pot of money, do acknowledge that, but so for example, the city has about $945,000 in PLHA money coming from the state. Most of that's going to go towards a first time home buyer program. Darby mentioned the down payment assistance program. We do have some other grants we're applying for. So you could potentially leverage this to other type of programs. In terms of the numbers, I wouldn't have those numbers because we haven't had the program for a number of years. And you're right, there's a lot of need. At the end of hearing all of the presentations and all the comments, I will be giving each of the planning commissioners 4 or 5 dots, and you can put for the different categories which you think for your 4 or 5 dots should go as a way to vote. So we can share that with the council. But yeah, do acknowledge there is a lot of need in the community. But I'll pass it off to Darby in terms of numbers and all that because we haven't had that program. So
Numbers. So it really depends. So with Guido saying you're going to do a down payment assistance program, it really depends on how you structure your program and what your subsidy limits are going to be, how much you're going to invest to help somebody buy a house. I think that the home program, which is another federal program that we could compete for right now, would limit us to $250,000 in home as a silent second. So if you just use that against the 950 that Guido mentioned, you got 5. Okay, that's for ownership. Greenfield Commons, which is 132 units of manufactured 2- and 3-story apartment buildings down in Greenfield, they're costing $850,000 a unit. So you really have to take the resources that you have and leverage something else to have any kind of meaningful impact. I think in terms, the third aspect of this would be how fast can you get stuff online? And so if the city really wanted to get behind Commissioner Woodson's suggestion of maybe these retention ponds, because you already own the dirt and you have something that you might be able to leverage other grant sources with, that might be a faster way to do it if you partner with somebody like Envision West. We actually used CDBG funding back in the mid-90s for the Nueva Esperanza Community Land Trust in Baranda to do the public improvements, the offsites, the street, the curb, the gutters. And that was a forgivable loan that's about to be forgiven here in about a year and a half. 11 units. The units are basically affordable in perpetuity because you keep selling them to an income qualified household. They don't quite appreciate at market because the maximum sale price is still driven by whatever the household income is. So you're not going to make oodles and oodles of money, but they do work. And having land is the first big hurdle. If you have the land, the money's a little easier to attract.
Lot to think about. And I appreciate you setting the time up today. I know we could have easily just said, hey, let's cancel a 3rd meeting in a row. But this is a big, to your point, it's a small amount of money. It is a priority issue. Obviously, the city council has to have a priority list, which is everybody's asking for that now, right? I mean, the Coastal Commission is saying, hey, CalAm, come up with a priority list for $3 million. And so we've got that effort going on right now. The city is taking that same $3 million and trying to come up with a priority list. Now we've got this smaller amount divided out over time. What I kind of like about this is it's coming up with sustainable programs that can be replicated year over year. Because if you're looking at this as a 3-year program, then it's even smaller pot of money for each year. And so in my head, I think, okay, what can we do for this amount of money? And looking at this, unfortunately, the cost of construction in this state is through the roof. Even simple thing like putting in a sidewalk, the cost per square foot is 3 times, 5 times what it is in most states in the country. It boggles my mind sometimes at how much we have. So ideas that we can come up priority wise and present to the council that are reasonable and scalable over time to kind of buy the biggest payback. And I think, you're right. It may not be housing. I mean, I think my other kind of question now with you is that if we are looking at, let's just say that this example with the housing, and I guess that's where my bent is tonight. And we did the prep of the land. Would we be restricted? And I would open it up to workforce housing kind of eligibility too, because workforce is just as big an issue as homeless. As that, if we had a lottery type of system, would it be restricted to only Marina residents because the money was granted towards the city of Marina, or would it be open to, we got these residences built over time, and even though the money was used for a portion of it, which was the site prep, would that kind of put a restriction on the eligibility of who could actually then apply to live in those homes and purchase them? Or is that a gray area we'd cross when we got to it?
I don't have a good answer because you've now crossed into fair housing law.
Right.
And I do everything I can to avoid that.
That's fine. I mean,
But I do want to step back for a second, okay? Two points. One, I would prefer to give Marina its 3 years of funding in 1 year. So it's more, okay, so you don't necessarily have to draw it out over all 3 years.
okay.
The second thing is, and I'm going to do this really simply, okay? If you did 10 housing units, 7 of them would have to be low mod and the other 3 could be workforce. Because as long as 70% of the money is going to benefit the low mod, HUD's happy. Okay. So there is a way that we can kind of help the workforce without helping, if that makes sense. We can't give them the loan, but we can underwrite the infrastructure that brings the cost of the unit down. So I don't know if Marina has a resident first policy in its inclusionary housing ordinance. I know that the county does not. We try to encourage it, or we try to encourage it to people who are currently living in the county or working in the county, but we can't limit it as far as I know.
Okay.
Chair, wasn't the Sea Haven low mod program, it said priority to Marina residents, people that work in Marina?
I believe so.
It was
And
on
then-
it was on
and
the
then
work
it went
on the workforce
outside.
side. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
was.
thought so.
And that was, and we had more than enough applicants.
We certainly did.
Yes, Commissioner Chan.
I think we'll discuss about, there's so many ways of using the fund, and I know the fund is not big amount, but I think the city had a financial responsibility to make sure the fund is distributed fairly and just. And I earlier asked about the priority,
Mhm.
how do you set it? I always think that it's necessary to look at the program.
Mhm.
I always ask myself, is it a necessity? Is that a basic need? If it is, or is it an improvement? The necessity will come before the improvement. So I think, I don't know who is the deciding body in selecting the project or using the fund. I think it's very important that we have to make sure that it's fair. Because there's so many areas that you could use the fund for, you know,
Mhm.
so that's my comments. Thank you.
So I believe the answer to that is the city council is
City
the
council.
ultimate one who will make the decision because they get to always be the final one when it comes to money for the most part. So, but the priority, and I think this is really just, the way this was set up was to give us on the planning commission a shot at discussing this as a group. Which actually I think Guido, I mean, and that's why I'm very glad you brought it here. Because this is not something it's something that we all could have talked about, but we could not have talked about individually with each other.
Right.
Because then we would have violated the Brown Act. And so by having it at the meeting here, we're actually able to have a consensus conversation about it. So.
And I'm assuming, Guido, that we won't make a recommendation from this board, but we've certainly had some good ideas and we'd had some good.
Oh, no, I'm gonna give you 5 dots right now. Once you feel you've had all the information, I'm giving each of you 5 dots. There's a piece of paper. You're gonna put your 5 dots wherever you can put them all in one category. You can put them across 5 categories. And that'll be your kind of vote
Yeah.
because it's not really a formal action of the body. But
Right.
yeah, so
But the specific ideas that were expressed here, like, you know, the landfill.
yeah.
Will those go to the council?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually going to reach out to Gabriel if he could put his ideas down on paper because I have the letter from MST. I'll get some maybe stuff written down from Gabriel. I could add that to the record because what I'm trying to do is give to the city council and then Alex from interim housing. He'll reach out and then put his ideas down. And so package it all up together for the council. So-
Yeah, right. Because it sounds like, I think it goes back to, I can't remember who talked about, it, but you know, the quality of it. I mean, with this amount of money, maybe we can impact 3 families meaningfully.
Well, that's
That's kind of a target idea.
well,
Or right.
and that's, and Darby's alluded to this. If you're trying to do a 40 unit affordable housing project, this is hit
Not it.
miss.
Yeah,
If
not it.
the commission is like, hey, we want to support Meals on Wheels or do some more ADUs on infill lots, then we already have the pre-approved plans,
Right.
right? Or the land trust issue we can explore, or MST's asking for all the money for all the bus stop.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's really up to the council, but that's your opportunity to have an impact meaningfully on the community. Either it's 3 people, it's 30 people. That's still people in need that your vote is important tonight for. So
Or maybe we could,
with the dots that I'll give you. So
maybe we could just ignore all this, put the dots in and then turn the dots over to AI. Just like what the federal government wants to do and just like.
well, in 10
They
years,
did it
we'll all be out of a job with AI, but that's a
Right,
different story.
so-
So okay. So
However, in the meantime, fortunately, we do not have AI incorporated into our city
into the planning
decision-making
commission. Yeah.
process.
So
So I am all ready for the dot.
okay, so I have basically everything that's on the board. I have on a piece of paper here. I have the orange dots here. So you're still in session right now. So if
So-
1 or 2 at a time, if you want to come down, I'll give you 5 dots per commissioner. You can mark it up. And then I didn't want to mess up the beautiful board that I spent money on.
Could we just break for 5 minutes from the official one to do the? or do we have to keep it?
Sure, if you want to recess, but you're still in session, that's fine. If you want to
That way
just.
we're not just, next up in line.
Right. That's fine. So come on down and then it gives me time to talk to Gabriel. So yeah, go ahead.
So we'll go ahead and be in recess for 5 minutes
Uh,
to do the dots.
Real quick, Chair, and
Yes,
you know, is there a way that viewers online can see the board?
I have the board, but I don't want to put the dots on the board because I'm going to keep using this at community meetings. I have a separate piece of paper that I could share if that's possible.
Okay.
We have the camera up. I mean, I can put it up to the camera if you
There we
want.
go. That'll work.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
So how about this, once we get, with this work, after we get done putting the dots in, we'll run down the list with how many dots for each item that were put on it.
Sounds good. And then obviously like the land trust idea, that wasn't obviously on my list.
Yeah, we have a couple that aren't.
Somebody
on the
wants to
list.
add and you can add that too. That's fine. So.
Will that work, Seth?
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we're back. The
We're back.
deputy city attorney was advising us that, you know, if somebody is in the audience, that we should be able to share kind of what the commission voted on and whatnot. So so there should be about 35 dots here.
Do you want me to go-
Um,
do you want to go through it or you want me to?
Yeah, I can go through. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots for some type of rental housing program. 1 for economic development, and I'm reading this off the chart for the members of the public at home. 1 for economic development, 2 for some type of energy conservation program. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for infrastructure type improvements. And somebody put a note said including sidewalks. Small business development, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 for affordable housing, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for this vernal ponds infill development type of idea that's been pitched around today. So that is what we have. Are there any other questions, comments, or
Mhm.
any more questions of Darby or?
Can you, when you put the minutes together, you'll put a combined table that has the topic with the number of votes on this
Yeah.
together?
So the way it's going to work is the city council is going into budget season in May, June, July. So I need to collaborate with the city manager in terms of next steps, is because this is kind of a new pot of money and I don't want to hijack his entire budget process because, as you can see, everybody has a lot of different ideas. And so I'm not sure if he wants me to include this as part of the normal budget process. Will this be a separate discussion with the council? So, but definitely we'll be taking this as part of a package of material to the council for them to make that final decision.
Would it
So-
help if we took a summary of that? Because I think we've got the notes and I presented that as a summary from the commission.
I'm sorry, say it again. I'm sorry.
When it gets to that discussion point, because I can outline, I know what the whole discussion was here today and why we ended up with the voting the way we did, to present that to the council and be able to answer.
Yeah, the night it comes, if a commissioner wants to
Yeah, I mean,
speak,
it's welcome.
anyone's welcome to come. The commission didn't take a formal. Where's that? Is that my microphone?
Drop the mic.
So, yeah, any commissioner can go to any council meeting, just have to be careful and you say, hey, I'm speaking on my behalf, not for the whole commission per se.
Guido, I've got a
Will we
quick
get
question.
the
for
feedback
process
from the
flow.
community as well?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Seb.
I didn't mean to interrupt the commissioner. Go ahead. I can go
Go ahead,
next.
Commissioner Chang.
No, will we get the feedback from the community as well?
You mean the letters that I'm going to get from other people?
The funding, how do we going to use the fund?
Monkey survey.
Oh, the survey monkey. Yeah, actually, that'll also be part of the information I give to the council. I can certainly share that with the commission. So what we've been doing the last month is anybody that comes to the permit center, we've been asking them to fill out the survey. So we can absolutely share that
All right,
with the
appreciate it.
commission. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the only, Seth, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to make a sort of a process point or question, given that this is not, an action item tonight, just for transparency. So these stickers are not a formal planning commission vote as a whole. These indicate the preferences of individual commissioners as sort of to atmospherically like provide some guidance to council on where you all stand, but your dots are furthermore, they're anonymous, right? Is that what I understand, Guido?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
No problem. Is that it? Well, we thank the commission. This is obviously is a very difficult kind of, and you got a little microcosm of what the council has to deal with in terms of a lot of need with a little bit of budget and, trying to parse that out. And so I appreciate the commission's willingness to be here tonight. We do have another meeting in 2 weeks to talk about more normal planning commission stuff, ordinance updates and whatnot. And we appreciate you guys volunteering your time with the city. So thank you.
Real quick for that meeting. And so in 2 weeks, So as you're going to talk about, I'll submit the email saying that I will not be here. Steph, I'm going to be remote because I'm not in town that week. So I'm going to be calling in. And so there'll be a formal email I sent about that. Will Commissioner Walton, she'll be the acting chair since I'll be calling in.
Yes.
Just let you know. You're welcome. Okay, I think the only other things we have on the agenda to wrap up are we have no other special presentations, no correspondence. Okay, that's it. We adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.